This tutorial will be for using the Audacity program with the Zoom audio recorder, and also with that little USB connected cassette player. So we can start by making sure that the Zoom audio recorder is turned on and connected to the computer. Then you can test it to make sure you're getting a good indication on the level meters. Then we can open the Audacity program, and here's the icon for it on my desktop. And I'll go ahead and open that. We don't need this panel, so we'll just OK that. And we want to check something right away here. We want to make sure that the Zoom audio recorder is connected and is selected as being the audio device. So we want to make sure that we are selected for MME here. This is for multimedia external device, and the Zoom is a external audio device. And we have some selections here, and the reason I'm going to show you these is I can almost see where it says H there, but not quite. And depending on your screen resolution, you may see more or less in that window. So what we're going to look for here is we can see that it actually says microphone H2. We can also hover the mouse over this window, and it will give you a little pop-up that shows you what that is. And I'll bring it up again just because it doesn't stay on the screen very long. And once again, just to give you plenty of time to be able to read it. I would recommend, of course, leaving it for stereo, and for the output, which is this window here, probably the LCD TV, unless you're set up to listen to the computer's speakers. And this is something Jason can probably help you with, getting set up for the best way. So let's go ahead and make a recording, because sure enough we're set for the MME here, the microphone, the H2 N, and this is the record button. And this control panel here is, this is pause, play, stop, rewind, fast forward, and record. So this goes back to the beginning of the file, this goes to the end of the file. This is record. Now after you start the recording, it will start build some audio tracks and start recording information in the tracks. And there they go, and you can see that it's way too loud. So the easiest way to make this adjustment here is to bring the audio level for the microphone down. We'll bring it down to about mid-level here, and that level looks pretty good. I'll bring it up just a little bit maybe, and I'm going to stop this. And there's two ways to stop it. You can either press the stop button here, or you can press the space bar and it'll stop. In this case, I'm going to press the stop button. And we know that there's problems with this recording, so I'm going to get rid of this. But we know that it is recording all right. So when you're ready to make your actual recording, you can set the volume on the zoom, and what I would recommend is to set the volume on the zoom to maximum. So that silver knob on the right side of the zoom, set it all the way clockwise, and then adjust the record levels using the microphone level slider here, as I had done a little bit earlier. So for your project, what you'll do is kind of get your thoughts in order, get everything set up, get your talking points up on the screen, get the picture you're going to talk about up on the screen, or if you're going to be introducing a video, thinking about what you want to say about it, and when you get your thoughts in order, then start the recording. Now, the thing about the recording is you don't need to have everything start out exactly right. Like right now it's recording, but I'm talking about making the recording. Information you would not want on your actual video. So I'm going to pause, give it a little bit of silence here, and then I'm going to just make some generalized statements, and I'm going to make a mistake so that I can show you some editing a little bit later. So starting now, I'm going to be quiet. If you're living in Middleton, Idaho at 55 Boardwalk Way, you're at the Harvey residence. If you're in Middleton, Idaho, your zip code is 83659. No. Let me start that again. Your zip code is 83644. And now I can stop this recording. And I can stop it either by pressing the space bar or by clicking the stop button here on this little control panel, which I did there, and it stops the recording. Now I can play this recording back, rewind to the beginning of the file, and play it. Now, the thing about the recording is you don't need to have everything start out exactly right. Like right now it's recording, but I'm talking about making the recording. Information you would not want on your actual video. So I'm going to pause, give it a little bit of silence here, and then I'm going to just make some generalized statements, and I'm going to make a mistake so that I can show you some editing a little bit later. So starting now, I'm going to be quiet. If you're living in Middleton, Idaho at 55 Boardwalk Way, you're at the Harvey residence. If you're in Middleton, Idaho, your zip code is 83659. No. Let me start that again. Your zip code is 83644. And now I can stop this recording. And I can stop it either by pressing the space bar or by clicking the stop button here on this little control panel. And that made that recording. But it has stuff at the beginning that we don't want, it has stuff in the middle that's got a problem, and it's got stuff at the end we don't want. So let's start by getting rid of the stuff at the beginning. So I'm going to use the left arrow here to go back to the beginning of the file. And when you get to a point where you want to stop it, if you press the space bar or you hit the stop button, it will automatically go back to the previous place where it started. In this case, it would be the beginning of the file. If you press the pause button, or if you press the P key, it does the same thing as the pause button. So typically, I find it's easier to just be ready and press the P key when I want to pause the recording and put the cursor at some point in the file. So let me start this, and I'm going to start it by pressing the play, but I'm going to have my finger ready. The thing about the recording is on the P key. You don't need to have everything start out exactly right. Like right now it's recording, but I'm talking about making the recording. Information you would not want on your actual video. So I'm going to pause, give it a little bit of silence here, and then I'm going to just make some generalized statements, and I'm going to make a mistake so that I can show you some editing a little bit later. So starting now, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to press the P key, and that stops it, but it leaves the cursor in this position. If we start up again, it will start from this position. But we know that everything from the beginning of the file to this point is stuff we don't need. So I'm going to do it just like you would edit a picture or a text file. I click the left mouse button, hold it down, and then I slide the mouse across, clear back to the beginning of the file. And right now I am paused. So what I need to do before I'm able to delete that is stop it. And now I can press the delete key on the keyboard and it gets rid of that. So now if I start at the beginning by clicking the rewind button, it runs just a little bit. If you're living in Middleton, Idaho at 55 Boardwalk Way, you're at the Harvey residence. If you're in Middleton, Idaho, your zip code is 83659. So now we have an error in there. But it's an error that I caught and I made a correction for. So I need to go back to where I started that eight three is your zip code is 83659. No. Let me start that again. Your zip code. So we need to go back to where we said the zip code is. Zip code. Okay, it's just before that. And this is just like, editing pictures, except for its sound. So I want to get rid of from here all the way up to here, basically, is where I started saying the zip code again. And you can do this by looking at these numbers at the top. They will tell you where you are in seconds and fractions of a second within the file. So when you're trying to find and locate things, you use this information very frequently. Okay. I can press the, and it's a good idea sometimes to just press the stop button just to make sure you're stopped and not just paused. You hit the delete key, and now that deleted that information that was in error. So now if I play this file from the beginning, oops, let me go back to the beginning here. If you're living in Middleton, Idaho at 55 Boardwalk Way, you're at the Harvey residence. If you're in Middleton, Idaho, your zip code is 83644. Okay, and that's all the information we need. Stop. That's all the information we need, because everything else from there to the end of the file was me just telling you about how to end the file. So I'm going to give some extra space for the editor to play with there, and I'm going to click with the left mouse button, slide the mouse clear to the end of the file, and again press the delete key, and it deletes that. So now all we have in this file is just the information that we want. If you're living in Middleton, Idaho at 55 Boardwalk Way, you're at the Harvey residence. If you're in Middleton, Idaho, your zip code is 83644. Okay, so oops. So that is the completed file with the error taken out. Now when you're making your recordings, this is a value judgment. When you're making your recording, if you make a little flub and you start over in the middle of the file, only you are able to make that correction, because somebody coming in later has no idea what your intent was or what you were thinking about, or what part of it is correct and what part of it is not correct. So the best thing is, if you make a little flub and you want to go back and do this correction, you can do it. If you feel that the flub is more major, the best thing to do is to just click this little X, delete the file, and I'm going to do it, but I'll bring it back again, because sometimes you'll make an error and you'll do something you didn't want to do. Oops, I didn't want to delete that file because, you know, I needed to save it. I haven't saved it yet. If you go up here to edit, it will actually allow you to undo that deletion. And it comes back again. Now, to save the file, you don't just save the file, because if you just try to save the file, it will try to save it in the Audacity format, but you don't want to save it in the Audacity format. You want to save it in a format you can use in other programs. So what you do is you click on File up here, and then you come down to Export Audio, because you can export this file, and it gives you different ways that you can export the file. I'm going to click on that, and just like any other time that you are saving files, it brings you to a window that lets you select the path to where you're going to run the file to, and it saves in this case it's a directory called the FM compile. This is just a random directory. I'm going to put it in here, but I'll just delete it later because it's a file I don't really want in that directory, and I'm going to call that test. It's already set to save as a wave, and I recommend using the wave for your your files, because that's the easiest way for the editing program to deal with them. If you click on this little down arrow here at the end, it gives you a whole list of different kinds of files that you can save it as, including MP3 and WAV. And I selected the WAV for this one. I'm going to call this file test. When I hit save, it's going to save this into the that directory that I pointed to. You can also add extra information if you want. This information does not normally come up, and people will typically not see it unless they're looking for it and know how to look for it in a file. So we're not going to put anything in here. I'd recommend that you just ignore this panel when it comes up as well. So I'm just going to OK this, and now that little audio clip has been saved. Now you can close that out, and you can actually close the Audacity. It's asking you if you want to save the file. You don't want to save it because it's asking you, do you want to save it in the Audacity format? You never want to save it in the Audacity format for what you're doing, so you'll always say no here. And then that gets rid of the Audacity program. We can then go to that File Explorer, find that file, and it's actually on the C drive. In the audio directory, and there's the FM compile. And if we go down into this list, we can see that their new file in there that we put in is called test. And there it is, and it's a WAV file. And we can double click on that to make sure that it plays all right. If you're living in Middleton, Idaho at 55 Boardwalk Way, and we don't necessarily have to listen to the whole file, that verifies that it did record and it plays back okay. Now that I've done that, in this case I just want to get rid of this file because I don't want to forget about it and leave it there for later. So I'm going to highlight it, and I can I can either right click on it and delete it, or I can highlight it and hit the delete key. And there's the file is deleted, and now I can close this panel. So to recap, first thing you do is make sure that the Zoom recorder is turned on, connected, and ready to go. Open the Audacity program, make your recording. After making sure that the Zoom is correctly connected and that you're getting good audio indications when you make the recording, make your corrections to the recording as needed. Then you export the file and export the file in the WAV format, and then you can double check to make sure that the file got saved in the right place. Now you can do the same thing with the Audacity program using the little cassette player, the USB connected US cassette player. Okay, so you take the cassette player, you plug in the USB connector, and you, of course, then if you want to listen to it during the recording, you can do it a couple of ways. Probably the easiest way is to simply put a headphone into the headphone jack, and then that way you're listening directly to what's on the tape without having to deal with having the signal go through the computer. So now I have the cassette player connected, and you want to do that just like with the Zoom. You want to connect that before you open the Audacity program. In fact, if you're using the Zoom and then you want to connect to the cassette player, you want to close the Audacity and open it again, because it doesn't seem to want to recognize. There's probably a way to get it to change over, but it's easier just to close and open it again. Now if we look at this, we're still with the MME because it's an external device, but now we want to have, as our input device, something called the microphone array. And I'm going to select that, and again I'm going to hover the mouse over a couple of times so you have time to read what this thing is saying. Okay, so if I put this up here, you'll notice that it says at the end that this is a PNP audio device, and I'll bring it up again. If you look toward the end, it'll say PNP audio, and I'll bring it up one more time. And the PNP audio, PNP means plug and play. So this is a plug and play device. It means you plug it into the computer, and it automatically connects, and it recognizes it and it plays it. So we go through the same basic process. We've identified that we're selected and that we have the right thing selected. In this case, I still have the LCD TV set up. I have the headphone plugged in so I can listen to what's on the tape. And I'm going to make a test recording. So I press the record button. It starts recording. I start the tape. And it starts playing. And if you have the headphones on, you can hear the audio. And you can control the volume. Again, you're trying to, and the volume you can control with the control knob on the cassette player. So here I have the audio turned all the way down. I turn it up, I turn it up. I turn it up to where I get it, get a good level without overdriving. And that's probably a pretty good level. About, it's pretty touchy here. Let's see, you got to rotate that pretty slow. Okay, that's a pretty good level there. I'm going to go ahead and stop the tape. And this is just used for setting up the levels. So I'm going to stop by pressing the stop button. I could also press the space bar, but I'll press the button. And this is just a test, so I'm going to get rid of that. And then when you're ready to record whatever's on the cassette, you want to make sure you rewind the cassette back to the beginning of the cassette, or the beginning of the part that you want to record. And after you do that, you start the recording by pressing the record button, and then you start the tape again. And whatever's on the tape will be recorded. Once the recording is done, then of course you can stop the recording again by pressing the space bar or clicking the stop button. But now you want to save it, and just like with the Zoom, you click File, you export the audio, you go to the directory that you want to save it in, you give it the file name that you want to give it, and then when you save it, it'll bring up that other, I'm not going to save this one, but it's the same procedure as you saw with saving for the Zoom. Exactly the same. In fact, it treats it the same. Once it's been saved, then you can get rid of this, these tracks. You can close out the Audacity, And before it closes, it wants to know if you want to save that. Again, in the Audacity format, you'll always say no. And that ends the Audacity program. So that is basically the content of this tutorial, and it should give you some guidelines for using the Audacity program with both the Zoom and the cassette player.